Hi, this is Donna. Welcome to DD Paper Crafts. In today's video, we're going to be making this two-tier pivot box. So you can see the top and the bottom layer pivot, and then the lid pivots on the top, like so. I've made this as a simple treat box. This box is 5 inches long, 1.5 inches high, and 1.5 inches wide. You can obviously change up the size of the box, and as I mentioned in the video, you may then want to consider changing the depth of the ledge, particularly if you're using a larger box. And also just consider, if you're going to be putting heavy things in the box, you may also want to just widen the widths of the ledges to give the box a little bit more strength as one sits on top of the other. The boxes are quite easy to put together, so let's get started. For each box, if you're making them the same size as me, you'll need one piece which is 8.25 by 5. Along the 8.25 inch side, score at 1.5, 6.5 and 8. And along the 5 inch side, score at 1/4, 1 3/4, 3 1/4, and 4 3/4. Fold and burnish along all of the score lines, and take particular care when you're folding along the 1/4 inch ledges. Now you could make your ledges wider if you wanted, but the purpose of them is purely to create a surface for the lid and to help one box sit on top of another. And because the box itself is quite narrow, I felt that 1/4 inch was sufficient and would do the job, and I didn't actually need it to be any wider. I'm going to have the tabs running into the ends of the box, so I'm going to start by cutting up these two end score lines. I'm going to turn the box round. Now I don't need this tab to be this whole length, so I'm going to cut it to about 1/2 inch. Like so. Remove the small 1/4 inch section and then shape this tab. So that is then going to come and sit around like so. We can do the same on the other side. Move to the other end. I'm going to repeat at this end, cutting through the 1/4 inch section down to the vertical, and the same on this side. And again, I'm going to remove that excess, remove this small section and create the glue tab, and do the same on this side. So we can now glue our box together as we would any other style of box. So add glue to the glue tabs, pull the section round to create the box. Then I'm going to fold the end 1/4 inch section down like so, add a small dot of glue onto the ends of the longer sections, and then just fold that over and secure that at the end. So you'll do that for however many boxes you are making. For each box, you're going to need a piece which is 1.5 by 1.5, and along one of the sides score at 1/2 inch. Fold and burnish along the score line and take a wedge from the 1/2 inch tab. Now you might need to slim this down a little bit. What's going to happen is this 1/2 inch tab is going to adhere to the back of the end that doesn't have the ledge on it. So that's going to sit in there like so. And then this piece is going to come and sit on the top, and this is going to be the support for the brad. So the first thing you want to do before you stick anything down is make sure that your piece does fit neatly in the back. And I've just got a slight bulge there, as it were, so I'm just going to shave less than a 1/16 of an inch off of the side of the box. I don't need it to necessarily sit from one side or the other, but I do need a good portion of this piece to be adhered to each of the ledges for the support. So I'm going to just take the slightest piece off there and just reshape that. So that's how much I've cut off, and just resit that in the back. So I can see that that is now going to sit nicely on the back of the box. So what we're going to do is determine which is going to be your top box. So let's say, for instance, I have this as my top box. I'm going to lay my box on top of the shelf, and I want to make sure that the back of the box is lined up with the score line and that the sides are all lined up. So I can lift up this tab and make sure that these are all butted up against one another. And then I'm going to use my screw punch. Make sure it's aligned at all times. You could do this with a pokey tool if you don't have a screw punch. And I'm going to punch through the two pieces at the same time. So I'm going to estimate roughly in the middle. You can see I've gone through the shelf and the box at the same time. So this shelf here is going to sit on top of this box. And I know that when I put this box on top, the holes are going to be in the same place. So I can stick this one into place. And then I can add glue to the side sections here. And then stick that down over the top. So we're now going to do the same thing for the lid support. So I've got my second shelf. Make sure it fits in the back of the box and do any trimming I need to. So this one is going to be adhered to the lid. For the lid, I would recommend you just double check the width and the length of your box because of the folding of your score lines. But this is just over 5 by just over 1.5. Bring my mat back in. I can sit my lid underneath my shelf and just wrap that around. So I know that the holes are definitely, so one piece is wrapped over the other. Put my screw punch roughly halfway across, roughly halfway down. So that's gone through. So I can now stick this into place. So I've just unglued this, you can see. Before I stick this down on here, I'm going to attach this base to this top. So put my brad through the hole in the base, pop it into the hole in the shelf. I can get my fingers in here to pull the brad apart. And the legs are now, you can't really see, but the legs are now split inside. So that's going to rotate to sit on top like so. Now what I can do is, whilst this is still lifted up, because it will be easier, so I'm going to put the lid in on top. Just make sure that everything lines up. So if you need to, at this stage, if your shelf is sticking out slightly beyond your lid, you can obviously cut that down. So just check that that all fits in place. Split the pins on the brad. That's it. And then I'm going to move the lid completely out of the way, around in this direction, and just add my glue and stick the shelf down into place. There we have our pivot lid, like so. Access the box, and then the two boxes pivot apart like so. Now, depending on what you're planning on putting on in the boxes, you might want to lengthen these additional pieces to give some extra support. But overall, I think as a treat box style, I think that's quite an effective box. So now it's just a case of adding your decoration to your side panels if that's what you're going to do. Here's my finished box. You can see I've just added some simple lettering onto the sides. I'm not sure who this is actually for. This is probably going to sit in my stash until I might need it. A simple sentiment on the top, and the box is ready to go. So there we have today's project. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel. And until next time, thanks for watching.